Hey YouTube, this is Dragon Master Knight with a new deck list profile for you. This is Black Salvo. I've actually been thinking about building this deck ever since I saw the recent banned list, particularly because Chaos Sorcerer is at 2 now, Cyber Dragon is at 3 now, and most importantly, Black Rose Dragon got brought back up to 3. Because previously, if you're running Black Salvo, your main choice is going to be 1 Black Rose Dragon, but if you were going to run a second Salvo, it'd be either Ancient Fairy Dragon or Airbellum or something. Excuse me, Urbellum. But now that we have 3 Black Rose Dragons, that gets rid of that problem. Plus, the release of Scrap Archfiend makes it even more fun, because now we have another target for Black Salvo other than just Black Rose Dragon. Anyway, so I'll start off the deck with monsters. First off, 2 Black Salvo, basically the star player of the deck. He's a 3-star tuner. Essentially, when you play him, he instantly becomes a 7-star synchro because you'll pull out a Dekoichi from your graveyard. Although if you have battle faders and such, you can make 8 stars. But anyway, Black Salvo is nice because he's an instant synchro. That's always a good quality for a tuner to have. And Black Salvo will essentially go into Black Rose Dragon to nuke your opponent if he's overextended his backfield, now that Heavy Storm's not around. Or he'll go into Scrap Archfiend, which will run over whatever your opponent has. Anyway, I'm actually debating on whether or not I should run a 3rd Black Salvo, and I'm not sure what I should take out if I was going to run it. Okay. Next up, 3 Dekoichi, the Battle-Chanted Locomotive. Dekoichi is essentially what your target for Black Salvo is going to be. He is a 4-star Dark Machine, and as far as I know, the only 4-star Dark Machines are this guy and that Trap Reactor that's part of the Skyfire guy that nobody ever uses him anyway. Anyway, Dekoichi is a pretty good card on his own, just because when you flip him, he gives you draw power, and that's always nice to have. This deck has a pretty good amount of draw power as it is. So Dekoichi helps, and he's also your target for Salvo to become an instant synchro. And it's nice because Salvo, when he uses Dekoichi, he pulls it straight from the grave, which means that if you have just 1 Dekoichi in your grave, you can abuse Salvo and use both of them without even having to get your 3rd or 2nd Dekoichi. But I run 3 of them just to make sure that I have them. Alright, next monster, 3 Battle Faders. Battle Fader is incredibly nice. He puts a hold on your opponent's OTKs, and he gives you a setup for the next turn. You can tribute it for Caius, or you can play Salvo, summon up Dekoichi, and then go into an 8-star. That gives you access to your 8-star monsters, like Colossal Fighter and Stardust. And they're just nice protection. 2 D-Alchemists, who, interestingly enough, is a Light-type fairy. Light's actually nice because it gives me that Chaos Sorcerer aspect of the deck. Anyway, Dimensional Alchemist removes stuff from your deck to gain attack, which means that they're an 1800 base, which is a nice beater. But more importantly, when they're destroyed and sent from your side of the field to the graveyard, you get to pull one of your removed from play stuff back to your hand, which means you can recycle cards that you've sent out of play, which is always nice, considering this deck does a lot of removing from play. I might be running a 3rd one, but I'm not sure. More lights. 3 Cyber Dragons. Cyber Dragon, I'm running at 3 because I can now. It's an amazing card, gets me out of so many situations. There's no reason that in a deck like this, Cyber Dragon shouldn't be run at 3. Next card, 2 Cyber Valley. Cyber Valley is not exactly necessary in this deck, but it's just a very nice accessory, and I like being able to be flexible enough that I can run a card like Cyber Valley. It gives you that draw power, which is always nice. It gives you protection for a turn, and if your opponent does Smashing Ground or Dark Hole it, and it gets up in the grave, you can use it as light fodder for Chaos Sorcerer, so there you go. 1 Sangan, Staple Searcher. He can search out most monsters in this deck that are under 4 stars. 1 Plague Spreader Zombie, just because he's a good dark tuner. He fits with the theme. And he's a pretty good card. You can take him out of your graveyard for grave control. Say you have 4 darks in the grave and you draw into that dad. Well, you can stick one of your cards from your hand on top of your deck, summon Plague Spreader, even though you're not going to synchro with it, and then bring out your Dark-Armed Dragon. Alright, to Caius the Shadow Monarch. There's really no way to win with Caius. If you have two of them, you're always getting into situations where that third one will help you. But if you run three of them, they're always going to clog your hand. It's just Murphy's Law at work. Anyway, Caius is a great card because he can get rid of any problem that you're having. I'm only running two of them because I'd rather have missed opportunities than lots and lots of hand clog that I can't do anything about. But Caius is amazing to tribute Battle Fader. Like if you summon a Battle Fader the last turn to stop an attack, next turn you can summon a Caius, get rid of whatever your problem is. Or you can tribute a Sangan if they didn't kill your Sangan and get both bonuses at once. Pretty nice. Fits in with the Dark theme fairly well. Two Chaos Sorcerers, now that we can run them at two. Chaos Sorcerer is pretty broken. You just got to remove a light and a dark. There's plenty of darks in this deck, and there are 7 light types. The 2 D-Elks, 3 Chaos, or not Chaos Sorcerer, 3 Cyber Dragons, and then the 2 Valleys if they don't get removed from play like they're supposed to. If your opponent decides to Smashing Ground them, you can use that. Anyway, I don't usually have problems getting Chaos Sorcerer out, and it's nice that his ability doesn't destroy the target. It simply removes it, which means that it gets around Stardust. 1 Gores, because I'd be foolish not to run Gores. I'm pretty sure that he should be a staple in most decks, because he's just so beastly, plus the fact that he's easy to get out and he stops OTKs. Gores is very nice. And Dark-Armed Dragon, a must-have in any Dark deck. Yes, I know they're not quite as beastly overpowered as they once were back in the day, but Dark-Armed Dragon is still very nice. And this deck has a lot of grave control, actually, so you can utilize Dark-Armed Dragon pretty well. Plus, if you don't end up having enough darks in the grave, he's always allure fodder. Next up, for Magic cards. 2 Gold Sarcophagus. This card is nice because it speeds up the deck so much. Gold Sarcophagus will let you pull out anything you want, and if you really, really are in a horribly bad bind and you need that card now, you can always use Dimensional Alchemist or something to get it a turn early. But anyway, Gold Sarc is always a great card. 1 Monster Reborn, because it's the new staple, and anyone would be foolish not to run it in every deck they build. Dark Hole, for the same reasons. Smashing Ground, because it's kind of like a little secondary Dark Hole. Dark Hole is usually used on 1 monster anyway to prevent Starlight Roading and such. And Smashing Ground is kind of like a little mini Dark Hole that only hits face-ups. That's his only problem. I like being able to have the versatility to run Smashing Ground. 1 Mind Control, very useful, especially in a deck that synchros like this deck does. This isn't quite as synchro heavy as the zombie deck that I used to have, but Mind Control is still useful, and it's nice to be able to mind control whatever your opponent has and then Cyber Valley it out of play. Yeah, that'll piss them off. It's also nice that it hits face downs. 1 Allure of Darkness, because there is a crap ton of dark cards in this deck, and Allure is very nice for thinning out your deck. Backfield Hate, got an MST, I'm not running a second one, that'll be cited. And a Cold Wave, because Cold Wave is broken. I was thinking about running a Trunade in here sometime, but I just don't have the room for it right now. Might actually take Smashing Ground out for Trunade, depends. 2 Book of Moon for general protection. It's a great card. It's kind of like a trap that's not a trap, which is nice. And 1 Scapegoat. Scapegoat is great in this deck. It kind of fits in with the whole Battle Fader Gores theme of stopping your opponent from killing you, like stopping any attacks that they may have. Plus, it gives you the little 1-star tokens that you can synchro with. Go into Salvo and bring out your big 8 stars or even a Mistworm. Trap cards. This deck doesn't have very many traps. 2 Bottomless Trap Holes, because they're staple. A Mirror Force. It's essentially staple. 1 Deep Prison. I might put in some more. I don't think I'd go up to 3, but I might put in a second one. And Solemn Judgment, because it's a staple. I'm actually not running any Solemn Warnings because I'm too dang poor to afford them. And I'm not really sure if I would want to run them if I could. The extra deck for this deck is pretty simple. I do run 2 Black Rose Dragons. because it's always nice to be able to go into them. And they're very easy to get out with Salvo. I also run a Scrap Archfiend for the same reason. A good amount of 8 stars, like Stardust, RDA, TRA, which is Thought Ruler Archfiend, if you didn't know, Colossal Fighter, Scrap Dragon, and I got some 6 stars like Brio and Goyo because Plague Spreader Zombie. And then, of course, Mistworm and the obligatory Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon because I main deck 3 Cyber Dragons. And it's always nice to be able to screw over Machina. Anyway, that's the deck profile. I hope you enjoy it. This is Dragon Master Knight signing out.